Hi guys, I want to take a few minutes before the start of the actual video to talk about some other videos that I'm going to be making soon. The first one is I'm going to be talking about this book. It's called Religions of Star Trek. I'm not sure if you can read that or not, but I got it from my library here at school. And I found out that they actually have a Star Trek section. It's on the 9th floor, and they have between like 8 and 10 books about Star Trek. Most of them were about were pretty short, or about more of like the making of or something like that, which I find interesting. But this one I really liked because it actually takes a more philosophical approach, and it's actually written by different professors of religious studies. And I think it said that the idea for this book came when they were doing a panel about talking, kind of relating religion to Star Trek, so they decided to actually write a book about it. And I haven't finished it yet. I've only read a little bit. But I think it's going to be really good because it talks about the religion in the different series and kind of how the characters approach it and how it affects them and how it's portrayed in the series. And it's really just an overview. I don't think that it talks about Enterprise because I'm not sure when it was written, but I know that it at least talks about the original series, TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. And it's not written from a universe perspective or anything, so it does include not really interviews with the writers, but just different things that they've said at different times over the past 50 years, and kind of some stuff that Gene Roddenberry has said, how he approached putting religion into and stuff. And I think it'll be really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to finishing it and then sharing it with you guys. And I'm not going to recommend it yet, but I think it'll be a good book. The second episode, or the second video that I'm going to be making, is I want to kind of explore the history of Klingon. Now obviously that's a really, the Klingon language, and obviously that's a really big endeavor, so I'm not going to try to become an expert on it or anything, but I've always found it really interesting how in different series or books or movies, sometimes they actually do create an entire language. And I think the two examples that I can think of are Klingon and then Tolkien's Elvish. How they actually created a language for their show that people are actually learning how to speak. And I know Klingon, it's not a fully formed language. There are obviously limitations to it with the vocabulary and stuff. But I'm going to be researching that over, I don't know when I'm going to be doing this episode, but I'm going to be researching that, and I want to present just kind of like an overview of the history of the Klingon language, how it came to be, and kind of how people approach it now. Because that's always been something that I thought would be really cool, and it's something that I want to learn more about. And then once I learn more about that, I want to share that with you guys. So I'm going to cut into the actual video now, because I feel like I've been rambling. But before I go, I want to say, Hayahutma, Gosh, Vajvam, which is today is a good day to die.
Engage.
So today I'm going to be reading the first chapter of this book, A Rock in a Hard Place by Peter David. I haven't read the entire book yet. I've read a few chapters in, but just to keep it more interesting, I've decided to read it kind of as I go along. I'll read a chapter or two in advance, but I didn't want to read the entire book and then come back and record these, just to kind of make it fresh and interesting, and so that I'm kind of reading it as I'm reading it to you guys. And another thing, yes, I am wearing my robe. It's because it is really cold in here, because we had an ice storm last night, and I don't think the heat in my dorm can keep up with it, so that is why I'm wearing this. But I'm going to start out with Chapter 1, which is called Chapter 1, coincidentally enough. And the first chapter, it's pretty short, but I've decided not to do 2 chapters today because the second one is a little bit longer. So just to start out with the first one, see how it goes, and then later I'll probably be doing 2 chapters, not 2 episodes, in a video if they're not too long. So, Chapter 1. Stone in my quarters. Captain Bourgeois did not get the reaction he expected from his first officer. Actually, he got no reaction at all. Stone just sat there at his customary corner table in the crew lounge and stared thoughtfully at the glass in his hand. The synthahol swirled around inside, catching the overhead lighting and glistening with the multicolor effect for which the Frankie invention was noted. It was not, Bourgeois noted, the standard issue glass used in the lounge. Stone kept his own glasses, his own liquor supply, his own everything, as if he was determined to keep himself isolated from the rest of the crew. Bourgeois stood there for a moment more, composing himself. He knew that the eyes of various crew members were on him. He should have sent a subordinate down to do this. Hell, none of it would have been necessary if Stone had just answered the damn page in the first place. Borgia leaned forward, knuckles on Stone's table. A roll of fat was just starting to develop around Borgia's waist. He was grateful for the recent redesign of Starfleet uniforms that provided for the short jacket uniform top instead of the straight, simple lines of the one-piece jumpsuit. It was kinder to older officers. Borgia had thinning black hair and eyebrows so thick that they seemed to join across the bridge of his nose. His jaw twitched in irritation. Generally, his scowl was enough to intimidate even his veteran subordinates. Not this time, though. Stone, the longer you continue to ignore me, the harder you're going to make it on yourself. Slowly, Stone looked up. Borgia remembered the first time that he had seen Stone. The man had made him nervous since the beginning of their relationship. Stone had sturdy enough features, high cheekbones, a pointed jaw, but a long scar ran down the right side of his face. Stone's scar was odd because modern technology could remove such unpleasant blemishes in a matter of seconds, but Stone wore his like a medal. His hair was black, cut short and spiky, regulation, but odd-looking. His eyebrows were upswept, almost to the point where Borgia wondered if he had some Vulcan blood in him. His eyes, though, had been what had disturbed Borgia that first time. Those eyes could bore through you, or focus on some other part of the room, or meditate on his own inner self. There was a great deal going on behind those eyes, and Borgia never knew what it was. Stone took in a deep breath, and then let it out slowly, lovingly. It was a sigh of relief. There it is. There what is? Stone made no reply, merely smiling. It was not a smile conducive to peace of mind. Borgia was becoming acutely aware that all other talk in the lounge had ceased. He considered ordering the lounge emptied, but decided that he would be damned if he disrupted everybody else because of Stone. Besides, let him see who was really in charge of the starship Nimitz. Stone, I'm giving you exactly 3 seconds to come to my quarters. Stone's expression said, or what? His mouth didn't have to. Borgia pulled all his authority around himself and cloaked himself in it. You are facing court-martial for insubordination, Stone. Court-martial? Was the calm reply. Was he finally getting through? Borgia forged onward, leaning across the table. Yes, court-martial. For insubordination and for endangering the lives and safety of this crew. Stone seemed to be looking at a far wall. Endangering. He considered the word, rolled it around on his tongue. All I remember doing is saving some crewmen's lives. Crewman you rode off. You broke regulations, Borgia said hotly. Regulations designed to guarantee the well-being of the entire crew. Guarantee, said Stone. He tilted back the glass and finished the contents. Then he began to roll the glass between his palms. Out in the middle of space, with instant death by a crushing vacuum staved off by a hall and prayers, and you want a guarantee? All right, Captain. Death is guaranteed. Nothing else. Stone made a sweeping gesture, taking in all those around him. These people understand that, even if you don't. Borgia shook his head sadly. Stone, you are relieved of your post. That's all. I didn't want to do this in front of the crew, but report to your quarters. Stone ignored him, reached for his bottle of synthahol. Get up, I said. Morning already? Said Stone lazily as he started to pour. Furious, Borgia snatched the bottle away from Stone. Not so much as a flicker of surprise moved across Stone's face. Instead, he remained frozen in position, his glass in his left hand, his right poised as if pouring. Then, very deliberately, he lowered his hand and raised his gaze, staring at Borgia's head as though his glance was boring through to the back of the captain's skull. Borgia matched his gaze. Go to your quarters, he said, or to the brig. It's your choice. I don't like those choices, Stone replied calmly. Borgia tapped his communicator. Security, he said. Report to crew lounge and escort Commander Stone to the brig. They can't make me go to the brig either. Borgia folded his arms and said, I don't see where you have much say in the matter. Stone stared at his glass. I'm going to sickbay. I beg your pardon? You heard me. It's more comfortable. You are not going to sickbay. Why not? Because, Borgia said confidently, you're not sick. Stone pondered that a moment. And then Borgia and everyone else in the lounge jumped involuntarily as the sharp crack sounded. Borgia looked in horror at the source. Stone had crushed the glass it had been holding. Unlike the unbreakable ones in the lounge, this one was actually made of real glass. The stem dropped to the table and rolled off. Stone sat frozen in position for a moment, his fist clenched. Then he slowly opened his hand. His palm and fingers were a bloody mess. "I am now," said Stone. And that's chapter 1. I hope you guys like it. It actually seems like an interesting book from the first few chapters and from the back. I think it'll actually be good, because the last Star Trek, like, I guess it's not fan fiction, is it? The last Star Trek novel that I read, I wasn't a big fan of, but I think this one will be better, despite its rather unpromising cover. So I think hopefully I'll be doing about one of these a week or so. I'll be alternating this in and out with my episode reviews. So if you like this and you want to hear more of it, I will be making more hopefully next week.